He is the first African-American driver to test for F1. He's the first African-American driver to drive a Indy 500. He also is toured up in multiple other classes. You can find out a little bit more about him with his documentary, Uppity, the Willy T rib story, available at chassis.com and on Netflix. And without further ado, here's Willy T Ribs. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Willy T.
We're here in Texas together.
Yeah, isn't that great? I mean, you're down at the coast, so you're living a little larger than Joel and I are at the moment. But
well, yeah, my son we were having champagne and oysters just a few minutes ago, and we videoed it. And my son told me that you guys need to calm down. This is not Robin Leach and Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous.
I don't know. I think you'd give it a run for its money.
Yeah.
Oh, we show Robin how to party down here in Texas. Oh, this is the partyingest state in the Union.
Well, and that leads to the first question I want to ask. You grew up in San Jose, and you've been all around the world. How in the world did you end up in the hill country of Texas?
Well, I mean, I'd been in and out of Texas a lot during my racing career, had a lot of friends here. I grew up on a ranch in Northern California with my grandfather. So I always wanted to retire. When my career was over, I wanted to be back on the ranch again, right? And plus my son, Theo, is one of the top shotgun shooters in the world. And I knew for him to be a world-class shooter, he had to be in Texas. So in his very first year in high school, we moved to Dripping Springs. He went to Dripping Springs High School. And along the way, I mean, he was developing his shooting career. If you want to be a great football player at a young age, you want to be in Texas. I mean, and Texas is just the greatest for sports, including shooting sports. So we moved out here, bought a ranch in Dripping Springs, and made him a shooting facility. But for him to train on, this is just the best place on the planet. I wouldn't live anywhere else but Texas.
You know, when we talked on the phone the other day, you'd said you'd had to go back to California for something, and you said, you wanted to come back to Texas, right, as soon as you could. I'm not a spring chicken anymore. I mean, I've lost most of my feathers. So, going back there, I'm there for 3 or 4 days, and I want to get back to Texas. And my son, he's 28 years old. He goes out there and he says, Dad, I can only handle California for about a week. Geographically, it's a very beautiful place, but it's just gotten too much, Yeah. So let's talk about your racing career for a minute. You've pretty much done it all. You raced in England, you raced on the West Coast, you raced down south. You've pretty much been everywhere, done, as far as I can tell, just about every class, from Formula Ford to Formula Atlantic, did a little bit in NASCAR, did the Indy 500. You just basically went through it all. So kind of describe how that kind of worked for you.
Well, I mean, I grew up in racing. My dad, my grandfather founded a very successful business, and my dad raced as a hobby. So by the time, as a kid, my dad was racing. So I was going to the races with him at a very early age, like starting at 3. And by the time I was 9 years old, I knew what my career was going to be. There was no, a lot of kids today, and even back then, were trying to figure out what their career path was going to be. Well, I knew at 9 years old what my career path was going to be. And when I got out of high school, I asked my parents to send me to England to start my racing career because I wanted to be a Formula One driver. I mean, the drivers from all over the world at a young age, they'd leave Brazil, South America, wherever they were coming from and go to England to compete in varied championships for one reason, to become a Formula One driver. So, I went over there, I won my first championship over there, and, that was the beginning of my pro career, and I'd do it all over again.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you got to experience so many different things. And, for those of you who haven't seen the movie yet, again, it's called Uppity, the Willy T. Ribbs story. You should definitely check it out, because this man is really interesting. Some of the different situations he's been in and stuff like that. So I know you had different team members, different sponsors, different team owners. What would you say was your favorite team to race for?
Oh, without question, Dan Gurney. Dan Gurney is a legend in auto racing. Very historical in its own right. He was, I'd known him ever since I was a kid. He was one of my childhood racing heroes. And, I raced in England. I raced for Roush. I had raced in IndyCar. But of all the teams that I liked and I had the best relationship with was Dan Gurney. And he was a great driver. He wasn't a wealthy team owner who never sat in the cockpit. So he understood what a driver wants, not only personally but competitively. So he was great to work with, and just smooth, easy. He didn't. If anything, Dan was trying to keep the shock collar on me, because he knew I was very aggressive, and I raced. I like racing hard. I like bumping. When we get out there, racing is a contact sport. So he just said, hey, you're faster than anybody. You don't have to leave black stripes on their car to prove.
Nice.
So, there is a moment in the movie where they show a picture of you with him as a child. Was that kind of feeling like you're living your dream when you actually get to drive for him?
Yeah, I guess in hindsight, yeah. You don't know, you never dream how the stars are going to align. It just happens. It's in most cases, it wasn't even in the plan, right? It just happened. And when it does happen, you got to take advantage of it. And, Dan knew me as somebody who would hang it out to win. And, that's what, you've got to do in racing. You've got to lay the lumber down.
So where did you learn to go fast?
Well, it started at an early age on my grandpa's ranch, because my grandfather had 300 acres. That's a lot of real estate to learn how to go fast on. And, he had all these vehicles, because my grandfather had quite a bit of money. So I was blessed from the standpoint that I didn't go without. I had what I needed, and to develop my racing prowess. And so I was on his ranch, and I started driving on his ranch real high speed, and the other farmers like, Henry, I know that wasn't you out there driving that fast, because they would call him and ask him, well, what are you doing? How come you're driving so fast? That wasn't me. that wasn't me. It had to be my grandson. And so it started there on the ranch, and by the time I left the ranch, I was ready to start my racing career. And, and I raced go-karts and motorcycles when I was a teenager along the way. Anyway, that's just part of the development process. And then I was ready to go to England. But, racing Formula Ford, racing open wheel, Formula Atlantic, racing Indy cars, stock cars. I even did a dirt track race in Wichita, Kansas, against Bobby Allison and Michael Waltrip, and Harry Gant. There was a lot of great drivers in the race. Morgan Shepherd. I nearly won the race. And so one thing that I wanted to do as a race driver, nowadays everybody has a genre and they don't mix anymore, right? There's stock car drivers, there's Indy car drivers, there's Formula One drivers, right? And in the old days, money was short for driver salary. So the drivers raced everything just so they could make a good living. So Bobby Unser, Mario Andretti, AJ Foyt, they race dirt, they race pavement, they race Indy cars, they race sports cars. They did everything just to make money. And I wanted to have that kind of resume. I wanted to be good in everything I sat down in. So good on the dirt, good in the Indy car, good in the sports car and road courses. And it wasn't hard. I could develop it right just like that. But the great drivers could make transitions like that. They could jump like Mario or Bobby Unser or even AJ. They could go right off a sprint car and jump into an Indy car and win.
So I always thought that was interesting that guys, you'd see so many big names that went out on weekends and race these dirt tracks. And you're thinking, what are you doing? You've got you're a NASCAR guy or you're a Indy guy. What are you doing on this dirt track in the middle of nowhere on a weekend? But yeah, it's, like you said, it kind of helps them hone their skills. And I don't know what the payout is on something like that, but
they didn't make a whole lot of money in those days. So they were racing every weekend something. They could get a gig. They would get behind the wheel and do it. And and now the drivers, for example, Lewis Hamilton, who is 6-time world champion in Formula One, he's making $100 million a year. That, driver salary plus endorsements, boy. So, you really don't have to, jump around when you got that kind of gig.
So it seems to me that the ability to go from one genre to the next, it all boils down to there is a strategy for winning. There's a strategy for passing the guy in front of you, for taking the lead. Is that how your success happened? You happened to figure that out?
Well, passing's not the biggest issue. It's going fast in each car. If you're going fast, you're not going to have to worry about passing anybody because you're going to be out in front. That's just the reality of the game. Now if you're racing dirt, for example, your way of passing somebody in a sprint car or a midget is a lot different than being in a Formula One car or an Indy car, for example. So, but it's something you adapt to right away. And but the whole objective is you don't want to have to pass anybody. You want to be out front, long gone. That's the objective. Being the fastest guy there, or one of the top 3 fastest, and being in position at all times to be able to win. That's the objective.
Yeah. So is there anybody you keep in touch with from those days that you see a lot or anything?
Oh, Uncle Bobby Unser and I, we talk at least twice a week. He's 86 years old. He don't act like it, but he's 86, and him and I are very, very close. My wife and I went and spent a few days with him not too long ago, him and his wife, Lisa. And, you know, he drives around in his wheelchair, and, you know, he's not walking the way he used to, so he can't walk all day. So he'll get in this high performance wheelchair. And I mean, this thing smokes the rear tires. I mean, that's how much power it's got, right? And so he's got around his house, there's certain levels of his house that he needs one of those ramps to drive up, right? And he goes up the ramp and gets airborne with that thing. He look, yeah, like Evel Knievel, right? He's going through the air, and thing is airborne, and drops back down. He says, "How do you like that one?" And so he turn around and go back, and then he make a run. He says, "Tell me how high I'm getting." Well, wait a minute, hold on. Okay, yeah, you ain't smoking marijuana now, son, so you don't want to get too high, right?
You're gonna have to worry when he wants to start rolling buses in there. Yeah, how many buses can I get over?
Yeah, he is an amazing man, and never gets upset. I mean, he's had 100 operations on his shoulders, his knees. You know, hell, we went to a Mexican restaurant down there in Albuquerque, and him and I went out and we walked in, and he was on a walker. Well, he says, we got to our table. "Oh, Mr. Unser, how are you? Very good to see you." So he takes his hand off the walker to get into the table, and he literally, I wasn't watching, he fell down. You know, well, falling down at that age is hip surgery, right? Mm-hmm. So he rolled to the left, and he did it so cool. You know, most people that age would drop like a ton of bricks, right? He did a slow roll, and he rolled down, and it was so graceful, almost in slow motion. He says, "You know, I've done this so many times. I've got it down to a beauty. It's almost artistic." But that's his mentality. Nothing bothers him. Gets back up. We had to lift him up off the floor and put him at the table, and he just laughs about it. That's the kind of man I want to be at that age.
Oh, yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So talk about your relationship with Muhammad Ali.
I got to tell you, of course, my grandfather was my idol. I idolized him, and because of his toughness and his resolve and his success. But Ali, you know, he was a hero when I was a kid, and you know, when I was racing in England in 1977, he was in England to do a promotion for a movie, and Motorsports Press said to me, they said, "We'd like to get a picture of you and Ali together." Well, they didn't ask Ali that. So I went to meet him early in the morning in London Hilton, outside of Hyde Park at 6 a.m. There was no media around. I wanted to meet him first. So he came out of the elevator because he does a morning run every morning at 6 through the park. And I asked him if I could run with him, and because I had waited up all night in the lobby to run with him. And he told me no. And I said, "What?" And I said, "Well, I waited up all night to see you." "Well, you shouldn't have done that." So, "Well, I did." So he said, "Okay." And we're walking. He's walking and I got his back was to me. He says, "Okay, I want you to run behind me." So I ran behind him, and for about 10 minutes, so he looked back over his shoe. "What's a young black boy like you doing here in England?" I said, "Well, I'm over here racing cars." "Racing cars? And where?" I said, "Here." That's what I mean. "You ever get scared?" I said, "You ever get scared of Joe Frazier?" "I'll knock you out. Don't you ever say that." So we developed, and we were talking about, and he was talking about, You got to be tough. You can't be afraid of it, because he only knew about NASCAR, because Ali is from Louisville, Kentucky. So all he ever saw, well, he saw IndyCar, because Louisville and Indianapolis is not that far. But, you know, he was, you know, sort of, NASCAR was sort of what was in his face most of the time anyways, what he saw on television. So he just reminded me of what I had to do. He said, you must be tough. You must be. And because you're going to deal with something that those other drivers are not going to have to deal with. And it's not about performance on the racetrack, about the color of your skin. He reinforced that. And he also reinforced that you can't be soft. You can't turn the other cheek. You know, if you got to bust them in the mouth, you bust them in the mouth. And that's, you know, with him, with that, you know, I understood my responsibilities.
Well, one of the things that I noticed about your life story is there was a couple times where things went a little bad, and you know, you didn't have sponsorship and didn't have a ride, but it seemed like there was a couple people that always believed in you and seemed to come in at the right moments to try to get you back going again. And you know, I'm specifically speaking of Paul Newman and Jim Truman.
Jim Truman was really, if it wasn't for Truman, there would have been no Newman, there would have been no Bill Cosby, there would have been no Dan Gurney. There would have been none of the mentors who came into my life that continue to boost my career along. And every one of them, they didn't listen to what anyone said, because they all got kicked back. Why are you sponsoring that? Well, I'll just say it starts with N, right? Why are you doing this for this guy? The ones who were pushing back did not focus on whether I was a winning driver or not. They focused on my skin color. And Newman and Paul, Jim Truman and Paul Newman and Gurney and Cosby didn't even like racing. He did it because he wanted to see me in the Indy 500. And despite everything that's happened, you know, I'm never going to speak bad about him because of what he did with me. He did what he did. He's paying his due. But if it wasn't for him, I would have never been in the Indy 500. And now, Jim Truman, Paul, they got me to, and Gurney, they got me to the point where it was time for me to go to Indy. And Bill ran the ball over the goal line.
I've heard you talk in multiple interviews that was a really special experience for you. You felt like you were treated like royalty almost there when you qualified.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Indianapolis 500 is the biggest race on the planet. It's one of the biggest sporting events, with the exception of the Olympics. But it is Indy. Not only is it the most important race on the planet, it's the most dangerous race, with the exception of the Isle of Man. Isle of Man, without question, is the most dangerous place on the planet for racing. That's a motorcycle race through the hill country of Ireland, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's very dangerous. It's very high pressure because, you know, you got to qualify, and only 33 guys qualify. So, you know, to accomplish that goal, to be in the Indy 500 is like being in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Well, and I found it interesting. By the way, I have to say your documentary was fantastic. It was extremely entertaining and compelling. Even my wife liked it. and she doesn't like anything. But anyway.
Was, you know, the feedback that I've been getting worldwide. Just 2 days ago, Sean Penn, the movie star, Sean Penn saw it. He tweeted it out everywhere. He just thought it was just a piece, and it's gone viral. And Jay Leno, Jimmy Kimmel, they were all crying in the end. And so, you know, not to mention the sports stars from different sports. So I think the hardest part about Uppity for me is that Jim Truman didn't get to see it, or Paul Newman didn't get to see it, or Muhammad Ali didn't get to see it. They were so key in my life, they didn't get to see it. That part makes me sad.
I can understand that, but they did get to see you as you blossomed, which is fantastic. So when was your last race, and what made you decide that it was your last race?
Well, actually, my last race was last year in the V-Rock series. There's a new series for IndyCar drivers and former stock car drivers, myself, Alan Sir Jr., Bobby Labonte, Skinner, Bodine, Paul Tracy, Bill Elliott. There's a championship called V-Rock, Vintage Racer Champions, and we do 3 races a year, right? And I won the championship last year.
All right, congratulations.
Yeah, it was, and these are high-powered, they're older Corvettes, older Mustang, regular race cars with 800 to 900 horsepower engines. So, you know, we're out there racing each other like the old days, but in vintage muscle cars. So I won that last year, and that was good. Prior to that, my last championship series was, I think, 2001, back when I was active.
So with this vintage racing series, do you have sponsors, or is it the same kind of setup?
Well, yeah, the owners of the cars, it's a charity event. The owners of the car supply their cars to the series. The promoter of the series, SVRA, the promoter, Tony Perella, he puts up puts on the event, and the owners supply the race cars. There's no sponsors. It's just owners with a lot of money who have these vintage cars who want to see people from, you know, legendary drivers from the past, Hall of Fame drivers, race their cars.
Where are the races?
Pardon me. First race is always in Atlanta in March. That got canceled because of the virus. Second race is in June in Indy. And third race is in September in Virginia. The last race is in Austin, Texas at COTA.
Oh, nice.
We still might. Now we missed Atlanta. We missed Indy. We'll probably miss Virginia, but we most likely will do Austin in November. That looks like it's going to happen.
Speaking of the COTA track out there, so have you been out there to a lot of the Formula One events?
Oh yeah, I'm Bernie Ecclestone's guest every year. If I'm not Bernie Ecclestone's guest, I'm Lewis Hamilton's guest. So
well, if they have any extra room, any extra room in their suites, let me know. I'd be all in.
Oh yeah, no. The Mercedes suite is well, Formula One is the NFL of auto racing. Period. All the rest of the series, IndyCar, NASCAR, they're not even on the same planet as Formula One. It is that big worldwide. It's that prestigious worldwide. It's a happening. It's like a Super Bowl in every country.
Right. Well, I think, having talked to you, I think you have thoughts on things sometimes. So I'd like to pick your brain on kind of the I know you went down and tried to run NASCAR a couple times, and it seemed like the sport wasn't ready for you. You know, that you were fine running the sport, but the sport wasn't ready for you. So do you want to talk about that for a moment, and then we can talk about the current situation and see?
Well, the tag name Uppity came from when I went down to NASCAR. When I went down to race there, and they'd never seen anybody down there like Willy T rips. For one, one problem was I could go fast and I could win races, and two, I didn't drop my head and I didn't bow, and I spoke just like I'm speaking now, right? They had a problem with that, and so the title Uppity, and that was just the one word. There was two words, right?
Yeah.
Right. It's the second word started with N, but we couldn't use that in the film. Carollo's like, he said, we can't use that. I said, well, that's what they called me. So he said, well, we can't use that. And I said, well, we got to go with Uppity. So we did. And when I was down there, they were like, holy man, right? And I didn't, it didn't bother me, the reception I got, because I got, like death threats, and I got the N-word. Now, I was never called the N-word to my face, ever. But, there was a reason for that. They knew that old Willy T, he ain't gonna take it, and you're gonna knock, we're gonna be eating our dinner through a straw for 2 weeks.
Now, that was one of my favorite parts of the movie, actually, was the part where you said, I loved it, that they called me that, because you took it as motivation. I'll show you. I'm going to show you what I am. You can call me what you want.
It was very motivating, and was, I said this to Don Lemon on CNN the other night. I said, it was fun. Lemon, I will never play the victim. That's just not Willy T. Rips, okay? And so he was like puzzle-wise, said it was fun. Well, yeah, damn right it was fun. If we got to race, great. If we got to get up and fight, let's do that too, right? And so it was something that I could handle real well. I hope this young kid named Bubba Wallace, he's getting the hammer on him right now, and you're going to have to be tough, son. They're going to see what you're made out of.
Well, that's why I was asking you that, because we know at that time they weren't ready for you. Do you think they seriously want to change now?
They've got to. It's not whether they want to or not. Sometimes when you get drafted for war, you might not want to go, but you got to go, right? So he's the one that he's the sheep they pulled out of the pen, right? And now NASCAR has got to change from the commercial side. Okay, commercially they got to change. They can't have that 1950s look, that Jim Crow look. They can't have it. Okay, the millennials are not going to support you. Corporate America is going to say, well, your numbers are not looking good, boys. So you guys are going to have to get back to running moonshine again.
Yeah, that'd be popular.
Yeah, that's where it all started. So.
Yeah. So there was one more story I wondered if you would tell, because I heard that one, and I wanted a good humorous story for our audience here. So Wally Dallenbach, and you had a little off-the-track race one time, is my understanding?
Oh, no, it wasn't once. I mean, we raced We raced a lot from the hotel to the track. I mean, because every morning, you know, there was the schedule you're on, right? You've got Friday, you've got practice. Saturday, you got practice, then qualifying. Sunday, you got warm up, and then race day, right? Well, you know what time you got to be at the track, and we're all staying at the same hotels anyway, right? So you know what time you got to be at the track in the morning for warm up. So we usually are coming out of the hotel at the same time, right? Most of the drive, yeah. And so we come out, well, we saw each other in the parking lot, and we were pulling out of the parking lot heading for the track, you know, 5 miles away. So we raced to the track in our rental cars. And we did it a lot. One year we raced in reverse. The track was only about 4 miles away. It was, I think it was Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, and Road America. And we said, hey, you know what? Let's do it in reverse this time. And we bet $20. And so we put it in reverse, go. And we go like this, and we're right in reverse all the way to track. Well, the Wisconsin cops saw us. We were late. We were late for driver's meeting. And they knew who we were. And they said, hey, you know what you were doing is illegal. I said, yeah, I know. You know, we had a little bit too much milk to drink. You know, we're in Wisconsin, right? It's bad cheese. So I didn't know which way was forward. So anyway, they didn't write us up or anything. They just said, just turn around and drive normal to the racetrack. So, but that was Wally. Wally says it was me. I think it was him that said that Days of Thunder with Tom Cruise, Robert Duvall, took what we did and put it in one of their movie scenes for Days of Thunder.
At the moment he started describing that, I was like, I've seen that. You know, I've seen that. Oh, it's in Days of Thunder. Okay. Yeah, now it makes sense. You know, it's like just to look at each other and they both just hop in and take off, just bumping the whole way there.
You know, and those days, I mean, drivers, IndyCar drivers like Bobby and Al and Mario, they would put, back in the days when the Holiday Inn, for example, there was no fencing around the pool. Back in those days, there was no OSHA to mandate, you know, fencing around swimming pools. They were wide open. You could drive right out of the parking lot right into the pool. They used to stack cars in the old days. They stacked their rental cars. After the race was over, they'd be partying and have a little bit of liquor, and they would drive into the pool, and let's see how high we can stack them. Then they drive another one on top until they were out of the top of the pool. Awesome. And you could do that in those days.
Yeah.
Right? You could do it. There was no social media. Nobody dropped a dime on you. It's not like I miss those days.
Yeah, no, I mean, I can remember we've talked about this before, Joel and I have, about how, you know, if you looked over at the guy next to you and he didn't have a beer in his hand when you were driving, you handed him one of yours. You know, because,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's just the way it was then.
You just can't, but you can't do that anymore.
No.
Legally.
So, man, I could go on forever with this, but I want to get back to some of the questions about what brought you to Texas. So, Joel, did you have anything else you wanted to touch on before we start talking about that?
Well, I just find this whole thing absolutely fascinating that you have been so single-minded since 9 years old about just beating everybody's ass. That's very admirable. It's most people are not that driven. Do you still drive fast? Do you still roar up and down 290?
Not really. I mean, how do you duplicate 230 miles per hour in a street car. You really can't. I mean, and I'm not talking about 230 miles per hour in a straight line. Anybody can do that. I'm talking about around a corner at 230 miles per hour. Now that's where, that's where the Quijones come in, right? Right. When you're at Indy, you bring your testicles in a wheelbarrow. That's what you got to have. And
with your magic tires.
Yeah. So, I don't really drive fast on the road. As a matter of fact, I let my wife do the driving most of the time. And now here's the irony. I've got a Lincoln Town car, like I'm a limo driver, right? She's got a 550 twin turbo, supercharged BMW, right? That's her car. I'm in Old Man Rivers' car, the town car.
So have you driven Coda?
Yeah, I did, in my son's truck.
Really?
Yeah, we were out there filming one day, and my son, Theo, is one of the top shotgun shooters in the world. And this magazine wanted to do a photo shoot with Theo at Coda, of all places. So we were going around Coda in his truck with a shotgun in it. And he was we were filming him on the back of the bed of the truck with a shotgun in his hand as we were driving.
Talk about anything shotgun.
Is there anything more Texas than that?
It was, and it got a lot of attention. So, I called Epstein over there at Coda and said, hey, we're going to do this. And he's, what do you think? No problem.
Nice.
So, yeah, that brings us back to, you wound up here in Austin. Did you, I guess, when you were thinking about, okay, my racing career's done, I need to move somewhere, did you give anywhere else any thought, or was it just, hey, I've been to this Austin place and it's pretty nice?
No, there was really no other. I wasn't going to move down to Houston. I wasn't going to move up to Dallas, but it was going to be in Texas. I just love Texas. I love the great people here. I got just great people, fun people, right? And I just love all the space. I love all the space. And I've had an awesome relationship here. And it's just been terrific. I told my wife, and my wife is from Montana. She's 6'2", former basketball player from Montana State, got into the hotel business, which she's in there. She's VPO of hospitality group. And, she's from Montana and, grew up on 2,200 acre ranch. And I said, well, how you like it here? She says, it's hot. It's hot. But she said, because prior to that, she was in Redondo Beach, California, GM for a 5-star hotel there. And I told her, I said, look, we're going to get married, but I can't live in California anymore. I said, we gotta be in Texas. So she reminds me of her commitment all the time. Yeah. Boy, you talk about honeydews. Yeah, I did move to Texas, didn't I? Yes, yes, honey, I'll do it.
So when did you move to Texas?
I've been here since 06.
All right.
I was here before the boom, right? When there was only 2 stop signals in Dripping Springs when I moved here. There was no HEB, there was no Walgreens, there was no Home Depot, there was none of that. It was a nice, now there's rush hour traffic in Dripping Springs.
He sounds like a Texan, Bob.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I loved it because there was nothing. It was just awesome. It was nice and quiet. And now, we got a lot of foreigners, coming in, and not from another country.
yep. So what did you and your wife? This is just kind of a funny question I wanted to ask. What did you think of HEBs when you first started using them?
Oh, I just thought HEB is great. They're not paying me to say this either.
No.
I like HEB, and I like their product line. It's been a great experience with HEB, including their employees. We're all on a first name basis.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
So I know it's funny because that's one of the things that people when they move from other states, they immediately fall in love with the HEB, and it's like, oh wow, this is so much better than what I had back home. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and even the ones that come from La, right?
Yeah.
Hollywood, when they come out from California, people don't normally engage you in California in a supermarket, right? You don't get that. Everybody's like a horse with blinders on, and if you look at them and smile, they think you're weird. Well, you walk in HEB and people are polite and you're going to be engaged. My wife thinks I go there just to socialize. She says, well, look, let's just get our groceries and go home. She thinks that's part of the PR tour.
Oh yeah. Oh. So what? When you got here, I don't know how much back home in San Jose you have with barbecue and stuff like that. What do you think of the food here, as far as?
Oh yeah, the barbecue here is sensational. I mean, but the food here is sensational. I got to tell you that Texans, they can cook, and it's heavy. I mean, we're not talking tofu here. We're talking, real food, and but it's just. And I live not far from Salt Lake, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm close, and I have to, be real cool on how much I eat because it's so damn good, right?
Right.
Yeah, you walk out there look like Pillsbury Doughboy.
Yeah, I used to make a rule I couldn't go more than once a year. It was kind of like I didn't want to feel like Thanksgiving more than twice a year. Yeah.
Exactly. But at the same token, you got a lot of real estate to walk that food off.
Yeah.
A lot of real estate. We ain't talking about blocks like New York. We're talking about miles and miles just to walk around where you live. Miles.
Yeah. So where are some of your all's go-to places around Austin or the Hill Country or whatever? Actually,
I used to, be at the Salt Lick and Mandola's out there in Driftwood. My favorite gig now is actually Eddie V's downtown. Oh,
yeah,
Eddie
nice.
V's, yeah. Oh, Eddie V's is awesome. They got a superstar waiter there named Luigi, and I do his gig, his table every time we go in. And so Eddie V's is sort of great food, but it's good. It's a happening joint as well. Around, the Driftwood, Dripping Springs area, I'll go to, I'll go into town there and have dinner occasionally. So, there's a little restaurant in Dripping Springs called Homespun.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I'll go to Homespun. I know, and I know everyone there. So I'm pretty loyal when it comes to where I hang out or where I congregate.
Have you tried Pius yet?
No, I have not.
You need to check that out in Belterra.
Where is that?
It's in
Belterra?
Belterra. Yeah. I'll just
Yeah.
leave it at that.
I won't forget that name.
Yeah.
No, they're good. Very good. So what's been one of your favorite Austin experiences?
I don't really have any one particular experience. It's like a whole bunch of, everything that, pretty much what we do here is fun. I mean, just hanging out at home and, being out in the country, that's fun. Going downtown, I'll go, like I said, Eddie V's. Occasionally I'll stop in the W. I used to be friends with the GM there. But, out in the country, just, going bird hunting, going dove hunting out because we can do it right on the property out on the ranch. So, that was, well, let's put it this way. Texas is not boring. And most people that come here from other states, no, this is not out in the desert with tumbleweeds. Hey, we got lakes here. We got hill country. We got some great restaurants. Tilly's, for example. Tilly's in Dripping Springs. Oh, you can go there and get wild at Tilly's. Because it's way up on the mountain. I mean, you can eat dinner and, you with your wife, you can get frisky with your wife out in the trees or your girlfriend. So, there's just, it's just best. For me, it's the best.
So since you've been here, other than traffic, what's the biggest change you've seen?
Traffic. Oh, man, there was just no traffic in 06, 07, 08, 09. 2010, it started to pick up, right? The last 10 years, the traffic has just been crazy. Now, it's not LA, right? It's not LA, it's not Atlanta, however, I don't think the Planning Commission ever expected to see the development that's happening. I don't think they saw it coming.
Actually, quite the contrary. When I moved here in '81, the conversation was, well, how do we keep our nice little community? And so they cognitively decided to not plan for growth. Well,
yeah,
they came anyway.
And guess what?
Yeah, they came anyway.
The developer said, "Hey, you boys want some money? Here it is."
That's right.
That's the problem. They've never had a problem accepting money. Whether it goes into their plan or not for the city, it's like, oh, you want to pay us something? Well, that's different. So, Joel, I'm going to give you the honor of asking the special question.
Well, you mean what is the weirdest thing you've ever seen in Austin?
Yes.
Willie, we ask everybody this question, and we get a whole range of answers, and I'm really interested to hear what you have to say. What is keeping with the Austin theme of keep Austin weird, granted that we live 20 miles west of weird, what is the weirdest thing you've seen in Austin?
I can't really say. I mean, I've seen, some salacious behavior downtown during not March Madness, but South by Southwest. I've seen, it proved very salacious stuff, right? But they're young kids. I mean, we all did that. That's about as weird as I can say I've ever seen. Just Texans, Texans have fun. They go out to California and want to know why, how come the Californians are so dull, right? They're just fun here. and nothing that's really shocked me. Just, little salacious behavior, and yeah, that's it.
Bob, I'm not sure, but I think this may be the first time I've heard the word salacious on our podcast.
It could be. I'm pretty sure it is. So
I like it.
Well, yeah.
Personally.
Well, then we'll have to advertise this as a salacious podcast. Yeah. So, I could sit and talk to you all day. But at some point, maybe we can revisit and dig deeper on a few things. And
so I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
How is the pandemic affecting you, or how is it affecting you?
Well, no. I mean, like I said, I'm out, and I'm not really close to anybody, and my wife and I, she's back traveling again. I mean, she was off for 2.5 months, and so now she's back visiting her hotels and, checking the general managers out and seeing what they're doing. But no, it hasn't been any issue out there. We're, the squirrels and the deer, they don't even have masks on. So, we're no issues yet.
All right, good. Well, stay healthy.
Yeah. So again, everyone, the movie is called Uppity, the Willy T. Ribbs story. Again, you can find it at chassis.com and on Netflix. And anything else, Willie, you'd like to plug?
No, just everyone stay safe, stay smart. And we're in a time now in the world and this country where we've got a decision to make as human beings. We got a decision to make, because if we keep on the divisive pace that we're on, we're all going to be gone off this planet by 2050. That's my prediction. If we keep at the rate we're going, we've just got to, try to love and respect each other. It's got to be deserved, because respect is deserved, right? You have to earn that, right? You have to earn that. Respect is earned, and once it's earned, it's deserved. But we're going to have to make it, or we're all gone.
Amen.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
Well, on that, I think if you'll hang out for a minute after I close this out, Willie, we'll talk for a second, then we'll go from there. But so again, thank you to our guest, Willy T. Ribbs. I hope you guys will go check out the movie. It is an awesome movie, and you got the stamp of approval from my wife, and she hates motorsports, so there's got to be something to it there. Anyway, and we'll talk to you later and see you next time on the Trail to Austin. Bye-bye.
Anytime.
So, hey, Willie.